They thought once they locked him behind iron bars, Nigeria would forget him. They were wrong. This is the emotional story of Nnamdi Kanu inside prison. A story they never wanted you to hear. That night, the sky was silent. No camera, no announcement. Only fear, footsteps, and darkness. He was taken away quietly. No trial sound, no protest sound, just silence. As the prison gate slammed shut, a chapter of suffering opened. Show. Dark corridor, handcuffs shadow, prison gate. Inside the cell, no soft bed. Only cold floor, cold walls, cold nights. He slept with one eye open. Not because of fear, but because he refused to break. Prison guards watched him, some with anger, some with pity. At night, when everywhere was quiet, he would sit alone, thinking about his people, thinking about Biafra, thinking about freedom. Many nights, tears dropped silently. Not for himself, but for those suffering outside. One night, he knelt down in chains and said, "God, if my suffering will bring peace to my people, let your will be done." That night, prison did not hold only one man. It held a spirit that refused to die. Outside, the world did not sleep. Mothers cried, youths protested, streets were filled with chants of his name. Free Nnamdi Kanu, free our brother. Even those who never met him felt his pain like their own. One prison officer once said to him quietly, "You should beg, say sorry, and you can go home." He looked up and said, "Freedom is not begged for. It is suffered for." They locked his body, but they couldn't lock his voice. They locked his movement, but his message moved faster than bullets. Till today, his body may be in prison, but his name still walks freely in the streets of Nigeria. This is not just a story of a man. This is the story of a movement. And movements never die. The prison never truly slept. Even at midnight, when the world outside rested in peace, the walls still whispered with pain, regret, and broken hopes. For Nnamdi Kanu, every new day behind those walls felt the same, heavy, slow, and uncertain. The early mornings were the hardest. The cold always came first, crawling through the floors, into the bones. Then came the silence, not the peaceful kind, but the silence that presses on the chest and reminds a man that he is alone. Days passed, weeks passed, hope became something he had to fight for with his mind. Sometimes, he would sit quietly in a corner and stare at the wall for hours, not because there was anything to see, but because his thoughts were louder than any noise the prison could make. He thought of his people. He thought of the streets where young men once shouted his name with fire in their voices. He thought of mothers who prayed with trembling hands. He thought of the dreams that brought him here. At times, the weight almost crushed him. There were nights he could not sleep. The chains did not always hold his body, but the uncertainty held his heart tightly. He did not know what tomorrow would bring, freedom or more waiting. And the waiting was the most painful punishment of all. Some wardens avoided him, some stared at him. One or two, however, watched him with silent respect. One evening, after a long day of silence, an officer quietly placed food in front of him and whispered, "You are stronger than you know." Then he walked away quickly, as if afraid of being seen showing kindness. That small moment stayed with him for days. It reminded him that even inside darkness, humanity still existed. Yet, not all days were gentle. There were days when loneliness hit him like a storm. Days when his body felt weak and his spirit tired. On those days, he would lie down on the cold floor and close his eyes tightly. Not to escape, but to remember who he was before the prison. He remembered standing tall. He remembered speaking boldly. He remembered believing without fear. And slowly, he would whisper to himself, "They can hold my body, but they cannot hold my reason for standing." Outside the prison, time was moving fast. The world was arguing, shouting, debating his name. Some called him a hero. Some called him a troublemaker. But inside the walls, none of those names mattered. Only one truth remained. He was a human being locked away from the world, carrying the weight of a movement on his shoulders. One night, he fell ill. Nothing dramatic happened. No crowd, no camera, just a man weakened by stress, cold, and waiting. He lay on the floor, breathing slowly, wondering if anyone outside even knew how heavy the nights had become. In that moment, he was not a symbol. He was not a leader. He was simply a man, tired, hurting, and hoping to see another sunrise. And the sunrise came. Weak, but alive, he rose again. That day changed something in him. He realized that as long as he was breathing, his story was not finished. And as long as his story was not finished, neither was the struggle. From that day, he began to do one thing every night: pray quietly, not for revenge, not for power, but for strength to endure. Strength to survive the waiting. Strength to carry the burden. Strength to remain human in a place designed to strip humanity away. Outside, protests would rise and fall. Inside, his battle remained constant. He did not know when freedom would come. He did not know how the story would end. But one thing became clear to him. Prison had not defeated him. Silence had not broken him. Waiting had not erased him. And somewhere beyond the walls, even without seeing him, his name continued to walk freely, on lips, in prayers, and in the hearts of many who believed that one day, this waiting would finally end. This story is a dramatized emotional narrative inspired by real-life events. It is created for educational and inspirational purposes only.